Are we really doing that? Are we really doing that? Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Hallelujah. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Now make a wish. Come on, Grandma.
Dear Grandma, I never imagined I would have to live life without you. Never imagined I'd be left here feeling blue. But on Friday, February 5th, you heard the Master's call. And I know that God has the master plan, so I trust him and I leave it all in his hands. Rest well, my beautiful angel, until we meet again on that great getting up morning when sorrow will be no more and heaven has no end. Love you, Tikwa.
How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit different as I wanted to share something with you all. I haven't really been on social media in a few weeks and honestly haven't felt motivated to create any type of videos because I suffered a huge loss. My grandmother, Mae Ashley, affectionately known as Bobby, transitioned this life as we know it about 3 weeks ago. And myself and my family were still dealing with it. I wanted to share this video for two reasons. One, just as I have created a Facebook message and Instagram posts, I wanted to acknowledge my grandmother here on this platform, on my channel. I wanted to acknowledge the life that she lived, the love that she showed us, and the legacy that she has left behind. My grandmother was such an amazing woman. She was a trailblazer, if you would say, in her family. I would say somewhat of an Abraham, as my grandmother was born and raised in South Carolina. She grew up picking cotton with her mother and her grandmother. When my grandmother became a teenager, she desired a different life. She desired to see what the world was like, and so she left her family and all that she knew, and she traveled to New York. In essence, my grandmother created a whole nother life, stepped out on faith, leaving everything that she knew behind, everything that was familiar to her, and she created a whole new life, raised children and raised grandchildren here. It is because of my grandmother that I currently reside here in New York. My grandmother was such an amazing person. If you knew her, some people would say that she was sort of like a Harriet Tubman, because once she stepped out on faith and relocated to New York, she had a younger sibling, her brother, who ended up relocating to New York and living in New York as well. My grandmother had such a huge heart. She always gave. My grandmother always would help you out if you needed to. For the family that would come up, she always opened up her doors, the doors to our home, and allowed them to be with her. My grandmother loved family gatherings. When we would have family gatherings, my grandmother would be the one to do everything. She would cook the entire menu and a little kitchen. You would be amazed at the amount of food and the goodness, the good tasting food that would come as a result of my grandmother's cooking. Even up until a few months before her passing, I mean, grandma could take something and nothing and make something out of it as far as a meal goes. And So my grandmother has left such a great legacy behind with her children, her grandchildren, and even her great-grandchildren. My grandmother was one, if you knew her in the building, she always spoke. She always asked how you were doing and how your family was doing, even if she never met them a day in her life. She cared about you, and she cared about the things that were concerning you and the people who were connected to you. My grandmother will forever be in my heart. I wanted to share this message because I know there are some people who are out there and they are grieving now. I have my moments of grief, and I have come to accept and acknowledge that I'm going to go through my process because I have known my grandmother my entire life. She has almost been a second mother to me. My grandmother helped me, assisted me financially when I was in college. My grandmother never spared anything when it came to her children and to her grandchildren. I remember even a couple of weeks before my grandmother's health began to fail, my grandmother was fully alert. My grandmother was sharp in her mind. My grandmother would call me. She would tell me her prescriptions. She knew what was for. Although my grandmother passed at the age of 81, and I will be the first one to acknowledge that she lived a blessed life, I will say that the fact that her health failed and she passed in a matter of 3 weeks, it's something that is really hard to come to grips with. Again, I want to share this video to share with you all, if you have never met my grandmother, preciously known as Bobby. She would do anything for you. She would help you. She would listen to you. She would be concerned. She would contact you. She was such an awesome, awesome, awesome person, and her presence will forever live on in my life and in the lives of my family. Grandma, we love you.
Eternal God, we come before you on this day, God, realizing and understand that you are the author and the finisher. Realizing and understanding, God, that you make no mistake. God, we thank you
For as
for the
much
life
as it has pleased the Almighty God to take out of this world our deceased mother, grandmother, friend, aunt, we commit her body to the Mother Earth. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
I once was lost, but now I am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to hear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we